His fingers loosened before he could shout. And before we continue, friends, write where you're from and what you're doing right now. It's interesting to see how far our stories travel. Andrew saw the woman sway backward, her dark coat flashing in the morning fog above the river, and in that same second, his hands closed around a bundle, warm, alive, letting out a thin squeak. He pressed the baby to his chest and stepped back from the railing, unable to make himself look down to where the black October water had swallowed someone else's tragedy. A train thundered past, blasting him with wind and noise. The bridge shook under his feet. The baby started crying, loud, demanding, angry, as if protesting the cold and the roar. That cry snapped Andrew back to reality. He looked around. The bridge was empty. No cars, no pedestrians, just him, the baby, and a gray, hazy dawn sky. Below the embankment, dark water glimmered, but he didn't look. As a surgeon, he knew, from that height, in that cold, there were no chances. I need to call someone. I need to call someone, flashed through his mind, but his hands were already slipping under the blankets, checking if the baby was okay, if she was cold. A girl, 3 or 4 months old at most. Pink cheeks, eyes squeezed shut, a toothless mouth wide open in a scream. That's when he felt the paper. A sheet folded into quarters, tucked under the diaper. The address was written in uneven handwriting, the letters jumping as if the hand had been shaking. Maple Street 17, apartment 4. Give her to Emily. She knows. Andrew read it 3 times. No names, no explanations. Just the address and those 2 words. She knows. He stood on the bridge, holding someone else's child, feeling a chill crawl down his spine, not from the wind, but from the realization that he was now tangled in something he hadn't chosen. 3 days ago, he'd gotten out of prison. 3 days. He hadn't even gotten used to the fact that he could go wherever he wanted, that doors no longer slammed shut behind him. And now this. The baby stopped crying, sniffled, and went quiet, pressing her nose into his chest. She smelled like milk and something childlike, long forgotten. That was how his niece Katie used to smell. He hadn't seen her in 5 years. The police, he thought. I need to take the baby to the police, give a statement, let them handle it. But his feet were already carrying him away from the bridge, down the embankment, toward the road. Maple Street, 17. Somewhere on the outskirts, old 5-story buildings. Half an hour on foot if you cut through the garages. He walked fast, hiding the bundle under his jacket, not from the cold, but from other people's eyes. The city was waking up. Lights came on in windows, a car drove by, a dog barked somewhere. An ordinary October morning, ordinary life, and he moved through it like something foreign, carrying someone's abandoned hope in his arms. By the garages, he had to stop. The baby cried again, this time softly, plaintively, and Andrew understood. She was hungry. What do babies this small eat? Formula? Milk? He had nothing. No money, no phone, not even documents. Everything was left in the rented room he'd taken 2 days ago with his last cash. Hold on, he whispered, not knowing who he was talking to, the baby or himself. Just a little more. We'll find this Emily. Maple Street 17 turned out to be a shabby building squeezed between 2 equally bleak twins. The yard smelled of wet leaves and cats. An old woman sat by the entrance with a bag, watching him suspiciously. Which floor is apartment 4? Andrew asked, trying to cover the bundle with his jacket. Second, the old woman grunted. And who are you here to see? Emily. The old woman snorted and turned away. Andrew went inside. The stairwell smelled of food and dampness. Somewhere upstairs a door slammed, heels clicked, and a woman in a red coat rushed past him without looking, without noticing. He climbed to the 2nd floor and stopped at the door marked with a 4. The paint was peeling, the peephole taped over from the inside with paper. Andrew knocked. Silence. Then footsteps, soft, careful. A lock clicked. The door opened, and he saw her. She was short, thin, with dark hair pulled into a ponytail and tired eyes. About 30, maybe a little older. She wore a faded robe and slippers on bare feet. Behind her stretched a narrow hallway cluttered with boxes. The woman looked at him, at the bundle in his arms, and went pale. "You," she started, then stopped. "Where's Casey? Where is she?" Andrew was silent. He didn't know what to say. How do you explain what happened on a bridge? The woman stepped forward, reaching for the baby. The girl stirred, whimpered. "Give her to me. Give me Mia." Andrew carefully handed her over. The woman pressed the baby to her chest, and for a second her face softened, smoothed out, the way people look at their own, at family. Then she looked up again, and her eyes were full of fear. "Where's Casey?" she repeated. "Who are you?" "On the bridge." Andrew heard his own voice. "She was on the railway bridge. I didn't make it in time." The woman swayed, grabbing the doorframe. He thought she would fall, but she stayed upright, only growing even paler, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Come in," she said dully. "Quickly. Don't stand in the hallway." The apartment was tiny, a one-room place that somehow fit a couch, a crib, a table piled with books, and a kitchenette with a two-burner stove. It smelled sour, like milk or laundry. A cactus in a cracked pot sat on the windowsill, the only living decoration. The woman, Emily, laid the baby in the crib and covered her with a blanket. Her hands were shaking. "Tell me," she said without turning around. "Everything, from the beginning." Andrew told her. Briefly, dryly, like a report. His morning walk across the bridge, he liked walking early before the streets filled up. A woman with a baby. He shouted, ran toward her, but she'd already climbed over the railing. He only managed to grab the bundle. The rest he saw out of the corner of his eye. A dark figure falling, a splash far below the bridge. Emily listened in silence. When he finished, she stood by the window for a long time, staring into the yard. "Casey is my sister," she said at last. "Younger. Mia is 3 months old. The baby's father." She paused, searching for words. "He's married. A rich man. Very rich. He told Casey he would acknowledge the baby, that he'd leave his family. Then he changed his mind. Offered money to keep quiet. Casey refused." She turned and looked Andrew straight in the face. Then he started threatening her, said he'd take the baby, that he has connections, lawyers, that he'd prove in court she's an unfit mother, that he'd lock her up in a psych ward if needed. Casey didn't sleep for a week. She called me every night crying. I told her, "Come here, we'll hide, we'll find a way out." And she... Emily's voice shook. She found her own way out. Andrew was silent. He'd seen this in war, people cornered, choosing nothingness over fighting. He'd never fully understood them, but he couldn't judge them either. "This man," he said finally, "the baby's father. Does he know about you? Does he know where you live?" Emily nodded. "Then you can't stay here." "I have nowhere to go." She gave a bitter smile. "I'm a nurse. I earn nothing. No parents, no friends." She waved her hand. "Do you think I don't get it? He'll come for her, for Mia, and no one will stop him." "I will." Andrew himself didn't understand why he said it. The words came out before he could think. Emily looked at him with distrust. "You? You haven't even introduced yourself. Who are you?" "Andrew. Andrew Carson. He hesitated. "I'm a military surgeon. I was a military surgeon. I served 5 years. Got out 3 days ago." He expected her to flinch, to slam the door, to scream, but Emily only narrowed her eyes. "What were you in for?" "Grievous bodily harm. Intentional." "To whom?" "To my commanding officer. He ordered us to leave the wounded during a retreat. I refused. He pulled a gun. After that..." Andrew spread his hands. "After that, court-martial, stripped of rank, maximum security prison." Emily stayed silent for a long time. Mia stirred in the crib but didn't wake up. "Did you break his arm?" Emily asked. "His jaw, and 3 ribs. He fired at me, I dodged. And then I snapped." "The wounded were evacuated?" "Yes, all of them." Emily nodded, as if ticking off something in her head. "Do you want some tea?" She poured him strong tea with sugar into a chipped cup with blue cornflowers. She didn't pour any for herself, just sat across from him, watching him drink. "You could have just called the police," she said, handed the baby over, walked away. "I could have," Andrew agreed. "So why didn't you?" He set the cup down and looked at his hands, big, rough hands that hadn't held a scalpel in 5 years. "I don't know. There was a note, an address. I thought—" He stopped. "You thought what?" "That the police meant paperwork, checks, foster care. That while they figured things out, time would pass. And the baby needs things now. Milk, warmth, someone nearby. Not a system, a person." Emily looked at him for a long time without blinking. There was no fear in her, only exhaustion and something else he couldn't name. "You're strange," she said at last, "for someone who's done time. There are all kinds in there." "I know. I worked in a prison hospital for 2 years. I've seen enough." She stood up, went to the window, and looked out into the yard. "His name is Seth Hader. Ever heard that name?" Andrew shook his head. "A construction tycoon. His wife is a congressman's daughter. 2 kids, a country house, a charity foundation. Last week he was on the news, opened a shelter for homeless animals, philanthropist of the year, and in reality—" Emily gave a bitter smile. "In reality, he destroyed Casey's life, promised her everything, swore. She believed him. When she got pregnant, he was happy at first. Said it was fate, that he'd wanted to leave his wife for a long time and now had a reason. Then something changed. Maybe his father-in-law threatened to cut off funding. Maybe his wife found out. Or maybe the toy just got boring, and he decided to get rid of the problem. He decided to get rid of the witnesses," Andrew said. Emily turned around. "Of Casey, of the baby, of me, if he finds out I know." Mia whimpered in the crib. Emily picked her up and started rocking her, automatically, like she'd done it 100 times before. "I don't need your help," she said without looking at Andrew. "I'll handle it." "How?" "I'll find a way. I'll leave. I'll hide." "With a newborn? No money? No documents? And what are you suggesting?" She lifted her head sharply. "Stay here and wait for his people to show up? Or go to the police he's bought? Or to a court he's bought too?" "I'm suggesting," Andrew said slowly, "that you think things through first. You're in shock right now. Your sister just—" He didn't finish. "You need time." "There is no time." Emily pressed the baby to her chest. "Casey called me last night. Said he threatened to come today with a lawyer and a notary, force her to sign away the child. She said—" Her voice shook. She said, "Emily, if anything happens, take Mia. You're the only one who knows who her father is. You're the only one who can protect her." "You know who her father is," Andrew repeated. "That means you have leverage on him." Emily froze. "What?" "Proof. Messages, photos, witnesses, anything that ties him to your sister. That's not leverage. That's a bomb. One that could blow up in my face. Only if you use it wrong." He stood up and paced the tiny room, 2 steps forward, 2 back. "Hader is a public figure. He needs his reputation. If information about the affair, about the child, about him driving a woman to suicide, if that gets out, he'll destroy me before I even open my mouth. That's why you need copies. Lots of copies. In different places. With different people." Andrew stopped. "Insurance." Emily was silent for a long time. Mia fell asleep in her arms, pink lips slightly parted, eyelashes trembling. "Are you serious?" she asked finally. "You're a man who got out of prison 3 days ago. You know nothing about me. You just happen to be on that bridge, and you want to… What? Go to war with a billionaire? I don't want a war, Andrew said. I want this girl to grow up, to have a home, a family, so that in 20 years she doesn't find out her mother died for nothing because no one wanted to help. Why does this matter to you? Because I could have walked past. I could have not run. I could have been on that bridge 5 minutes later. But I wasn't. I was there in time. I don't know if that was chance or… He hesitated. But if it happened this way, then it's mine now. Emily shook her head. You're crazy. I've been told. She snorted, short, joyless. Fine. Let's say I believe you. Let's say you're not a maniac, not a con artist, not one of his planted provocateurs. What are you going to do? First, we leave. Right now. Pack everything important. Documents, baby clothes, money if there is any. And find a place where no one will look for you. And where are we going? Andrew hesitated. I have one address. A village near Harrisburg. My grandmother's house. She died while I was inside. The house is empty. No one will look for you there. A village, Emily repeated skeptically. A village. A wood stove, a well, 100 miles to the nearest city. Barely any signal, no internet at all. But it's quiet. And it gives us time to think. She looked at him with narrowed eyes, as if weighing something. And if I refuse? If I say, leave, I'll handle it myself? Then I'll leave. Andrew shrugged. It's your decision, but I wouldn't wait for Hader to show up here with lawyers. Emily was silent. Outside, an engine rumbled. Someone had parked in the yard. An ordinary sound, but she flinched and pulled the baby closer. Fine, she said. Damn it, we're going. They packed in 15 minutes. Emily stuffed baby clothes into a sports bag, onesies, diapers, bottles, cans of formula, added her documents, phone, some papers, pulled on a jacket and wrapped the baby in a sling. There's no money, she said calmly. None at all. My paycheck isn't for another week, and I already borrowed from the neighbor. We'll manage. How? You don't look rich either. Andrew smiled faintly. I've got something. I'll sell it. It'll be enough for now. What? A medal. He paused. An award for bravery. I got it for my service before all this. I kept it. Emily looked at him strangely but didn't say anything. They left the building through the back exit. Emily knew the door there never locked. They moved through courtyards and narrow lanes, past garages, past a kindergarten with a peeling carousel. The city was waking up around them, cars humming, shop doors slamming open, people hurrying to work. Andrew felt strange. Just yesterday, he had been alone, free, owing nothing to anyone. Now he was walking beside a stranger carrying someone else's child, with no idea how any of this would end. Should we go to the bus station? Emily asked. No. There are cameras there, tickets tied to documents. We'll hitch a ride or walk to the train station. You're paranoid. Careful. He glanced at her. Hader is a serious man. If he finds out you ran off with the baby, he'll start looking. And he'll find us if we leave a trail. You really think he cares about some infant? I think he cares about his reputation. And this girl is a threat. Emily fell silent. Mia slept in the sling, breathing softly, unaware that her life had just been turned upside down. They waited for the commuter train at a small, abandoned platform in an industrial zone. No ticket office, no cameras. The autumn wind pushed trash along the tracks. The air smelled of oil and rain. Tell me about yourself, Emily asked, pulling her jacket tighter. If we're partners in this escape now. What is there to tell? Everything. Where you're from, your parents, why surgery, why the army. Andrew stared at the tracks. In the distance, the train appeared, a small dot growing larger every second. I was born in Chicago. My father was a doctor, my mother a teacher. They both died while I was serving. I studied medicine, then a military program, deployments to hot zones. I operated under fire, saved whoever could be saved. I thought that was my path, my calling. And then one order, and that was it. No rank, no license, 5 years behind bars. Do you regret it? Regret what? Breaking his jaw? The train pulled in, doors opening. They stepped into an empty car, worn seats, scribbled walls, the smell of cigarettes. No, Andrew said, taking a seat by the window. I don't regret it. If not for me, he would have shot me and left the wounded. 18 people. Some survived, some didn't, but they were given a chance. What I paid for that, that's another matter. Emily sat across from him and unzipped her jacket. The baby was warm in the carriage. Do you have a family? A wife? Kids? I had a wife. She didn't wait. She left? A year after the sentence. She wrote, "I'm sorry, I can't." I don't blame her. 5 years is a long time. Did you forgive her? Andrew watched the city slide past the window, houses, factories, garages. Soon there would be fields, forests, open space. I'm not angry, he said. Everyone chooses what they can carry. She couldn't. That was her right. Emily shook her head. You're strange, truly strange. Is that bad? I don't know. She adjusted the sling. We'll see. They traveled for a long time, first by train, then by bus, then by hitching a ride. Andrew remembered the road, a winding dirt track through pines, the smell of damp leaves, the silence broken only by birds and wind. The village was called Willow Creek. 20 houses, half abandoned, a few old people living out their days, a store that opened twice a week, a church without a priest, a cemetery on a hill. His grandmother's house stood on the edge of the village, right by the forest. Low, darkened by time, with a sagging roof and an overgrown garden. The gate creaked sadly when Andrew pushed it open. My God, Emily breathed. Can people actually live here? They can. He stepped onto the porch and found the key under a loose floorboard, where his grandmother always hid it. We'll light the stove, air the place out. It used to be good. It will be again. He wasn't lying. The house greeted them with dampness and cold, but it was the honest smell of old wood, emptiness, and forgetting. Not decay, not rot, just waiting. Andrew lit the stove, opened the windows, washed the floors. Emily fed Mia on the old couch, covered with a blanket he found in a chest, reeking of dust, but intact. By evening, the house came alive. Firewood crackled, a kettle boiled on the stove, the sky darkened outside the window. Mia slept in a wicker basket Andrew found in the attic, an old cradle his father had once slept in. It's strange, Emily said, warming her hands around a cup. This morning I was in the city, heading to work, and now I'm here. That's life, Andrew replied. That's how it works. My sister died today. Emily stared into the fire. I should be crying, screaming, banging my head against the wall. And instead I'm sitting here with tea, thinking about whether the formula will last a week. That's shock. It'll come later. At night maybe. Or in a few days. Give yourself time. She shook her head. You don't understand. Casey and I didn't get along. She was 10 years younger, a different generation. When our parents died, I raised her as best I could, and for that, she didn't exactly hate me, but she didn't love me either. I wasn't a sister to her, I was a warden, always giving advice, always knowing better. When she got involved with Hader, I was against it. I said, he's married, he has kids, you're ruining your life. She wouldn't listen. She said, you're just jealous because you're alone. Emily swallowed. We didn't speak for almost a year, and then she called, and she was already pregnant. You forgave her. I had no choice. She was in trouble, and I'm the only family she had. Emily set the cup down. I'm not a perfect sister, not a perfect mother, not a perfect woman, but I'm all this child has, and I won't give her to him. Andrew nodded. Then we need a plan. What kind of plan? A plan to stop him. You have proof. Messages, photos. Emily pulled out her phone and turned it over in her hands. Casey sent me screenshots. Their messages. Photos of them together. I saved them, just in case. Is that on the phone? In the cloud. They can track the phone, but the cloud… She hesitated. The account is registered to a burner email. Only I have the password. Good. That's step 1. Step 2. We need to find out what he's doing now. Is he looking for you? Has he gone to the police? Going to the police doesn't benefit him, Emily said. If he reports it, the child comes up. People start digging. He doesn't need that. Then he'll look quietly, on his own. He has people, security, lawyers, maybe even someone in the police. Andrew thought for a moment. He knows your apartment? Yes, Casey told him. Then he's already been there. Or he'll go tomorrow. Will the neighbor say anything? Emily grimaced. Mrs. Stone? She'll tell him everything, and add a few details of her own. She can't stand me, thinks I bring men home. That's bad. So he'll find out soon that you're gone, and that you left with some man. You mean… I mean he'll be looking for both of us, and he has resources we don't. Emily stared into the fire, silent. Then what's the point of all this? Why are we hiding here if he'll find us anyway? To buy time, to prepare, so that when he comes, we're ready. Ready for what? Andrew met her eyes. Ready to strike first. The first week passed in constant work. Andrew patched the roof, fixed the porch, chopped firewood. Emily settled into the house, scrubbing, cleaning, hanging freshly washed diapers. Mia grew, gained weight, started smiling that meaningless baby smile that makes adults' hearts tighten. In the evenings, they talked. At first about practical things, money, food, plans, then about the past. Emily told him about her childhood, their parents, about Casey as a little girl. Andrew talked about military hospitals, about the people he saved and the ones he lost. They didn't become friends, too soon for that, too much distrust, worlds too different. But something between them shifted, softened, became clearer. On the 7th day, a neighbor came by. Mrs. Murphy, 82 years old, 3 teeth, a sharp tongue. She lived in the last house, had seen them from afar, and finally decided to introduce herself. So you're Dona's grandson then? She asked, peering at Andrew from under her headscarf. Heard you ended up in prison. I got out, he replied shortly. I can see that. And who's this? Your wife? A friend, Emily said. We're staying temporarily. Mrs. Murphy snorted but didn't press further. Instead, she pulled a jar of milk from her bag. Milked it from my cow, fresh, this morning. Don't give it to the baby yet, too early, but it'll do for you. She came every day. Brought milk, eggs, sometimes vegetables from her cellar, chatted about village news, who'd died, who'd married, whose cow had calved. She refused money. Put it away, she waved it off. Dona helped me plenty of times. Now it's my turn. 2 weeks later, Andrew went to the district town. He sold the metal, not for what it was worth, but for what they offered. Bought groceries, formula, diapers, stopped by an internet cafe to check the news. There was news. Emily had been right. Hader hadn't gone to the police, but a post had appeared on social media from his foundation, in his name. A fundraiser to search for a missing child. A photo of Mia, taken from Casey's phone. A touching story about a grieving father and a kidnapped baby. Andrew printed the post, brought it home, showed it to Emily. Bastard, she said quietly. What a bastard. He's laying the groundwork. When he finds us, he'll say we're the kidnappers, that he was saving his child from criminals. And people will believe him. People believe pretty stories. And he has money, PR, charity work, Against us, nothing. We have the truth. Truth without proof is just words, and words can be drowned out. Emily stared at the printout for a long time. Then we need to act, she said finally. Not wait for him to find us. We go first. How? She pulled out her phone and opened the cloud storage. It's all here, 1.5 years of messages, photos of them together, restaurants, vacations, videos where he promises to marry her, audio recordings of their conversations. Casey turned on the recorder when he started threatening her. Here. She scrolled through the files. Here's one where he says, "If you don't sign away the child, I'll destroy you. I have people who can make that happen." That's a threat. Direct, documented. Yes, but it's not enough. He'll say it's fake, edited. His lawyers will tear it apart. Andrew thought. A plan began to form in his mind, still rough, but taking shape by the minute. "We need a witness," he said. "Someone who saw them together, who can confirm the baby is his." Casey said they had a mutual friend, Martha. She introduced them. Later they had a falling out, but Martha knows everything from the start. "Where is she now?" "I don't know. Casey lost touch, but I can try to find her." "Find her. And we also need a journalist. Not tabloid trash, a real one. Someone who won't be afraid to tell the truth." Emily gave a skeptical snort. "And where do we find someone like that?" "We look." The next days were spent searching. Emily wrote on social media, carefully from burner accounts, without revealing herself. Andrew followed the news, gathered information about Hader. The picture was ugly, a construction empire built on shady schemes, contracts with the city awarded by cutting out competitors, rumors of ties to organized crime, never proven, never disproven either. "He's not just a businessman," Andrew said one evening. "He's part of the system. That's why no one touches him." So what? We're two fugitives with a baby. What can we do against a system? A system is strong as long as its secrets stay hidden. Secrets are leverage. You just have to find the right one. The leverage appeared unexpectedly. Emily was searching for Martha and found something else instead. Not Martha herself, but a post from 2 years earlier. A party photo. Casey, Hader, Martha, and another woman. Tall, red-haired, with a mocking squint. "Do you know who this is?" Emily asked, showing the screen. Andrew looked closer. "No. That's Jean Collins, a journalist. She used to investigate corruption until she was fired. Now she runs a blog, writes about what mainstream media stay silent about, and she knew Hader." "Looks like it." Emily zoomed in. "Look at how he's looking at her, and how she's looking at him. You think they had an affair? I think we should ask." Finding Jean Collins wasn't hard. She didn't hide. An online blog, a contact email, even a phone number for tips. Emily wrote to her, short, no details. "I have information about Hader. Interested?" The reply came an hour later. "Interested. Where and when?" They agreed to meet in Harrisburg. Andrew didn't want to take Emily. Too dangerous. Too many unknowns. But she insisted. "She's my sister. My child. I have to be there." "And Mia?" "Mrs. Murphy will watch her. I've already arranged it." They arrived in the city early in the morning. A cafe on the outskirts, plastic tables, vending machine coffee. Jean Collins was already there, tall, thin, with a sharp gaze and a cigarette between her fingers. "Talk," she said instead of hello. "We don't have much time." Emily told her everything, from the very beginning. Jean listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes in her notebook. When the story reached the end, the bridge, the note, the escape, she stayed silent for a long time, staring out the window. "Powerful story," she said finally. "If it's true." "It is." Emily pulled out her phone. "Here's the proof." Jean scrolled through the files. Her expression changed, from skepticism to interest, from interest to something close to excitement. "This is a bomb," she said. If this goes public, his career is over. But, she looked up. He'll eat you alive. He has an army of lawyers. He'll sue for defamation, for kidnapping a child, for anything. You'll be in jail before the first comment appears under the article. Then what do we do? Jean stubbed out her cigarette. You need insurance. Multiple copies of the materials, in different places, with different people. If anything happens to you, everything gets published automatically. It won't protect you from arrest, but it will protect you from being silenced. We have copies, Andrew said. But we need witnesses, people who saw them together, who can confirm. Martha? Jean asked. Emily nodded. I know where she is. Jean took out her phone. We used to be friends. Then, she waved it off. Doesn't matter. She lives in the suburbs, works at a beauty salon. We can go to her. Now? When else? Hader won't wait. The longer you hide, the more time he has to prepare. They went. Jean drove, an old Toyota that had seen better days. Andrew sat in the back, Emily beside Jean. On the way, they talked about different things: journalism, the system, how power really works. You knew Hader before, Emily said. In that photo. Jean smirked. Sharp eye. Yes, I knew him. Very well, actually, 3 years ago. We had an affair. Short, intense, pointless. Back then, he wasn't as powerful, and I wasn't as smart. He left you? No, I left him. When I realized he was lying not just to me, but to everyone. His wife, his partners, his friends. Lying is his way of existing. He doesn't know how to live any other way. And you decided to write about him? I did. I started gathering material, and then I got fired. Suddenly, without explanation. My contract was terminated, my articles pulled, colleagues stopped talking to me. That was him? His people. He never gets his hands dirty himself. Emily was quiet for a moment. Do you want revenge? I want justice. Jean looked at her. You feel the difference? Martha lived in a small suburb, a typical apartment block, a typical stairwell, a typical door with a peephole. She didn't open right away, watched through the peephole for a long time, then asked who it was. Martha, it's Jean. Do you remember me? The door opened. Martha didn't look like she did in the photo, faded, older, dark circles under her eyes. She looked over all three of them. What do you want? To talk. About Hader. Martha went pale. I don't know anything. You do. You introduced him to Casey. You were at that party. Casey is dead, Emily said. A week ago. He drove her to it. And now he wants to take the child. Martha froze, then stepped back and opened the door wider. Come in. The apartment was small and cluttered. Cosmetics everywhere, magazines, boxes. Martha sat them on the couch and took an armchair across from them. Casey is dead, she repeated. How? She jumped from a bridge, left a note, just an address where to take the baby. Emily handed her the phone. This is her last message. Read it. Martha read for a long time, then set the phone down and covered her face with her hands. I warned her, she said dully. I told her, don't get involved with him. He'll use you and throw you away. She wouldn't listen. She was in love. Tell us everything, from the beginning. The story was simple and familiar. A corporate party, a chance meeting, a charming man with an expensive watch and sad eyes. He complained about a wife who didn't understand him, about children who had grown distant, about a life that hadn't turned out the way he'd dreamed. Casey listened, sympathized, fell in love. A classic. I saw them together 5 or 6 times, Martha said. Restaurants, clubs. Once, his country house, he threw a party. I was there. Can you confirm this on record? Martha hesitated. If he finds out, he'll find out anyway, Jean said. The question is, does he find out now, when we're ready, or later, when it's too late? What are you going to do? Publish everything? Messages, photos, testimony? Make it impossible for him to bury it? Martha was silent for a long time. Then she nodded. Okay, I'll talk. On record, on camera, however you need. She swallowed. He and I once, before Casey. I thought it was love. He was just having fun. Why did you stay silent? Because I was afraid. Martha clenched her fists. He knows how to scare people. Not with threats, but with smiles. He looks at you like he knows something you don't. And you realize he can do anything. Anything at all. Now we can too, Emily said. Together. They recorded it right there in the apartment. Martha spoke evenly, in detail. Dates, places, names. Jean filmed on her phone. Andrew recorded audio as backup. Is this enough? Emily asked when they finished. Almost. Jean reviewed the recordings. We need one more trump card, something that makes the story undeniable. A DNA test, Andrew said. If we prove Mia is his daughter, he won't be able to deny it. For that, we need his DNA, or DNA from one of his relatives. Everyone fell silent. He has a brother, Martha suddenly remembered. Bill. They don't get along, but a brother is still a brother. Where is he? Somewhere near Lancaster, I think. Casey mentioned they had a falling out over the inheritance. Bill got scraps, Seth got everything. Bill Hader, Jean repeated. We'll find him. They found him in 2 days. Bill Hader didn't live in Lancaster itself, but in a settlement outside the city, in a house that had seen better times. A former engineer, former businessman, former brother of a rich man. Now a retiree who repaired furniture for custom orders and drank on weekends. He opened the door warily, unshaven, in a stretched-out t-shirt, a cigarette between his teeth. What do you want? To talk about your brother. The wariness shifted to interest. About Seth? Come in. Inside, the house was cleaner than it looked from outside. The furniture was simple but solid, clearly made by someone who knew how to work with his hands. On the wall was a photo, young Bill with his wife, children, grandchildren. If you're from him, Bill said, sitting down at the table, I don't talk to him. We're not from him, Emily said, sitting across from him. We're against him. Bill narrowed his eyes. That's interesting. Go on. They told him, briefly, without unnecessary details, about Casey, about Mia, about the plan. Bill listened in silence, smoking one cigarette after another. So he did it again, he said when they finished. Used someone and threw her away. You knew about others? I did. Not all of them, but some. Girls he messed around with. He got one a job, then fired her. Paid another to keep quiet. A third. Bill hesitated. The third ended badly too. Pills. Why did you stay silent? And who was I supposed to tell? He's a respected man. I'm nobody. No one would have listened. We're listening. Bill looked at them for a long time. Then he stubbed out his cigarette. What do you want from me? A DNA test, Andrew said, leaning forward. You're his brother. Your DNA is close family. If we compare it with the baby's DNA, we can prove Mia is from your family. And what does that give me? Justice, Emily said. A chance to watch him fall. Bill gave a short laugh. Justice. Big word. He stood up and walked to the window. Seth took everything from me. The business we started together. Our parents' house. Even my wife. She left when she realized there'd be no money. And I stayed here, in this hole, fixing stools for pennies. Then help us. Bill turned back. And if he finds out? If he realizes I'm involved? He won't know until it's too late, Jean said. And when he does, he'll be too busy saving himself. Bill was silent for a long time. Then he nodded. All right, to hell with it. Do your test. They took the sample, a buccal swab, a simple procedure. Jean took it to a lab, reliable, discreet, one that knew how to keep secrets. The results were promised in a week. The week dragged on endlessly. Andrew and Emily returned to the village, to wait, to prepare, to plan. Mia grew, started cooing and grabbing at toys. Mrs. Murphy came by every day, bringing milk and gossip. "A car came by your place," she said one day. "Black, from the city. Stopped by the turn, stood there a bit, then left." Andrew tensed. "When?" "The day before yesterday. I thought they were lost. Or maybe not." He checked the road, tire tracks, flattened grass. Someone really had come, looked around and left. Reconnaissance? Or coincidence? "We need to be ready," he told Emily. "If they come, we leave through the forest." "Where to?" "To the station. From there, anywhere." They packed a go-bag, documents, money, baby supplies. Left it by the door to grab at a moment's notice. The test results came on the 7th day. Jean called in the evening, her voice buzzing with excitement. "It's a match, 99.8%. Mia is from the Hayter family." Emily closed her eyes. "So that's it. So we can." "Yes," Jean confirmed. "I'm preparing the piece, publishing tomorrow morning." "Tomorrow?" "The sooner the better. He already suspects something, I can feel it. We can't give him time." The night passed without sleep. Andrew sat by the window, staring at the dark forest, listening to the silence. Emily fed Mia, rocked her, hummed softly. The house smelled of firewood and milk, and for a second it felt like it had always been this way, that this was his life, his home, his family. Someone else's family, he reminded himself. Someone else's child, someone else's woman. You're just a passerby who happened to be on a bridge. But his heart said otherwise. In the morning, he stepped onto the porch and saw the car. A black SUV parked by the gate. 2 men in dark jackets, professional, calm. "Emily," he called without turning around. "Take the baby. We're leaving." She appeared a second later, Mia in the sling, a bag on her shoulder. Her eyes were wide, but her voice steady. "Through the back door?" "Yes, into the forest. I'll hold them off." "No. Together." He wanted to argue but didn't have time. The gate creaked, and a man stepped into the yard. Not one of the two, another one. Tall, in an expensive coat, with graying temples and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Emily," he said. "Finally. I've been looking for you." Seth Hayter looked exactly like he did in the photos, well-groomed, confident, used to power. He stood by the gate as if he'd come to his own home. "Give me the child," he said, "and we'll part peacefully." Emily clutched Mia to her chest. "She's not yours. She is my daughter, and I will take her, with your help or without it. You have no rights. I have money." Hayter smiled. "And money buys any rights." Andrew stepped forward, blocking Emily. "Leave." Hayter looked him over, cold, calculating. "And you must be that former soldier who just happened to be on the bridge," he smirked. "A very convenient coincidence." "Leave," Andrew repeated, "while you still can." "Or what? You'll break my jaw?" Hayter shook his head. "I've read your file. I know what you're capable of. But this isn't war, not a field hospital. This is the law, and by law, that child is mine." "By law," Emily said, "paternity requires a test, and testimony from the mother you drove to suicide. She was mentally unstable. Doctors will confirm that. Doctors you paid. Doctors who know their job." He took a step forward. The 2 men in dark jackets moved with him. "Last offer. Give me the child. I don't want to use force, but I will if I have to." Andrew felt his body tense. Old instincts, not forgotten in 5 years. The 2 guards weren't the problem. Hayter was. And what stood behind him? "You're too late," Andrew said. "What?" "You're too late." Andrew pulled out his phone and showed the screen. "The article went live half an hour ago. Messages, photos, witness testimony, and the DNA test results. Hader went pale. What test? Your brother Bill's. He was happy to help. Something flashed in Hader's eyes, not fear, but close. He snatched his phone and started scrolling, his face growing grayer by the second. This, he swallowed. This is slander. I'll sue. Go ahead. Emily stepped out from behind Andrew. While the court sorts it out, everyone will know the truth. About you, about Casey, about the child, about how the philanthropist of the year harassed the mother of his own daughter. Hader looked at her, and for the first time there was no superiority in his gaze, only anger and confusion. You don't understand who you're dealing with, he said. I have… What? Emily cut him off. Money? Connections? Lawyers? We have something better, the truth, and now everyone knows it. She raised her phone. Notifications flooded the screen, hundreds of comments, thousands of shares. Jean's article was spreading online like a wildfire. Hader stood still. Then he turned to the guards. To the car. They left quickly, without a word. The black SUV turned around and disappeared down the road. Emily sank onto the porch. Her hands were shaking. Is it over? She whispered. Just like that? Not completely, Andrew said. There will be court, there will be battles. But the main thing, he's no longer in the shadows. Now everyone is watching. Mia started crying, loud, indignant, as if protesting all the adult drama. Emily pulled her from the sling and held her close. Hush, little one. Hush. It's okay. The months that followed were hard, but not hopeless. Jean's article caused an uproar, first online, then in mainstream media. The prosecutor's office opened an investigation. Hader's partners began distancing themselves. His wife filed for divorce, taking the children and half the assets. The custody case dragged on. Hader hired top lawyers, but the evidence was undeniable. Messages, Martha's testimony, the DNA test, recordings of threats. In the end, the judge ruled Mia would stay with Emily. He'll have to pay child support, the lawyer said after the hearing. A substantial amount, and he's banned from approaching the child. And him personally? He's facing charges for driving someone to suicide. The investigation is ongoing, but his outlook… She shook her head. It's grim. Emily stepped out of the courthouse, squinting in the sunlight. Andrew was waiting by the entrance, just as he had been all these months. Not pushing, not demanding anything. Just there. What now? She asked. Now we live. Just like that? Were you hoping for something more complicated? She laughed, for the first time in a long while, lightly, freely, as if a weight had fallen from her shoulders. No. Simple is enough. They returned to the village, not because they had nowhere else to go, but because it felt right. Andrew's house became their home. Mia grew, took her first steps, said her first words. Mrs. Murphy came by every day, bringing milk and pies. Andrew restored his documents and went back to work, not as a surgeon, but as a doctor, at the district hospital, where hands were always needed. The pay was low, the work was endless, but he felt in his place again, needed. Emily got a job at the same hospital as a nurse. They saw each other every day, worked together, came home together. Sometimes they sat in silence, sometimes talked until morning. Something was growing between them, slowly, carefully, like a flower pushing through asphalt. One evening, when Mia was asleep and the first snow was falling outside, Emily said, "You could have left, back then, at the very beginning, handed the baby to the police and walked away." "I could have." "Why didn't you?" Andrew stared into the fire for a long time. Then he said, "I spent 5 years in a cell, thinking about what I did, about what I could have done differently. And I realized one thing. Life isn't what happens to us. It's what we choose. And you chose us? I chose not to walk past. Everything else followed on its own." Emily came over and sat beside him. Their shoulders touched. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For not walking past." He took her hand, simply, without words. They sat like that, watching the fire, while snow outside covered the world with a white blanket. In spring, Andrew proposed. No grand gesture, no romance. He just asked over breakfast, "Will you marry me?" Emily nearly choked on her porridge. "What?" "Will you marry me?" he repeated. "I know everything's complicated. I have a record. I'm old. Yes," she said. "What do you mean, yes?" "Yes, I will." They had the wedding in summer, in the village. There weren't many guests. Mrs. Murphy, Jean, Martha, Bill with his family. Mia, who had just turned 1, sat in her new father's arms and clapped her hands. "You're a beautiful couple," Mrs. Murphy said, wiping away tears. "Donna would have been so happy." Andrew looked at his wife, and smiled. For the first time in many years, he felt at home. A year later, a letter arrived. Hayter had been convicted, 5 years suspended for driving someone to suicide. Not much, but at least something. His business collapsed, his wife emigrated with the children, his friends turned away. He was left alone in a big empty house, with money that could no longer buy anything that mattered. "Do you feel sorry for him?" Emily asked. "No," Andrew said. "But I don't feel joy either. He chose his own fate." "And Casey?" "Casey." He paused. "Casey did what she did. We can't change the past. We can only remember." They put up a headstone for her in the village cemetery, next to Donna's grandmother. Small, modest, with the inscription, "Casey, beloved sister, loving mother." Every year in October, Emily brought flowers there, and she told Mia about her mother, how kind she was, how cheerful, how she loved to laugh. Not about how she died, about how she lived. "Is Mom an angel?" Mia would ask. "Mom is always with you," Emily would answer. "In your heart." The years passed. Mia grew up, smart, lively, with her mother's smile and a stubborn streak. Andrew worked at the hospital and became head of the department. Emily studied and became a paramedic. The house slowly grew, adding a veranda, a garden. Mrs. Murphy passed away at 93, quietly, in her sleep, with a smile on her face. She was buried in the same cemetery, next to everyone she had known and loved. "She was a good woman," Andrew said at the memorial. "A real one." "Just like you," Emily said. "Me?" "You." One day, many years later, Mia, now grown with a medical degree and a fiancé from her class, asked, "Dad, how did you and Mom meet?" Andrew looked at Emily. She smiled. "It's a long story," he said. "Tell it." And he did, from the very beginning. About the bridge, the note, and the stranger's baby in his arms. About fear, hope, and the fight. About love that grew out of chance. Mia listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. "You could have walked past," she said finally. "You didn't have to run." "I could have." "Why didn't you?" Andrew looked out the window, at the garden, the house, the life they had built. "Because sometimes," he said, "fate gives you a chance. One moment, one decision, and everything depends on what you choose." "And you chose right?" He looked at his daughter, the daughter who had once been a stranger's bundle in his arms, at his wife, who had once been a stranger in a doorway, at a life that might never have been. "Yes," he said, "I chose right." The sun was setting behind the forest, painting the sky in pink and gold. Somewhere in the distance, a train rumbled, the same one that passed over the bridge where it all began. Andrew put his arm around his wife. She leaned into him, warm and familiar, as if it had always been this way. "Are you happy?" she asked. "Yes." "Me too." They stood there, watching the sunset, and no more words were needed. Life went on, simple, real, theirs. Mia came out onto the veranda carrying a tray of tea, a habit picked up from Emily. Her fiancé, Dave, stood by the gate talking on the phone, his laughter drifting through the evening quiet. "Mom," Mia said, setting the tray on the table, "I want the wedding to be here, in the village, like yours." Emily looked up. "Here? But your friends are from the city, Dave's family." "Let them come. Whoever wants to will come, and whoever doesn't." She shrugged. "Then they're probably not that important." Andrew smiled. "That's your mother's character, Casey." The same stubborn line to the lips, the same direct look. "All right," Emily said. "Here it is then." They set the wedding for August. All through June and July, the house buzzed with preparations. Emily sewing, cooking, decorating. Andrew fixing, sanding, painting. The neighbors, the few who were still left in the village, helped however they could. They brought vegetables, flowers, old dishes from their grandmother's chests. "Just like in the old days," said Mrs. Blake, a neighbor from the far end of the village. "The whole community putting on a wedding together." Dave was confused at first. He was a city guy, used to restaurants and catering, but he gradually got into it, chopping wood, helping set up the tent, learning from Andrew how to fix the fence. "Your future son-in-law is a solid guy," said Mr. Hardy one evening, stopping by. "Knows how to work with his hands." "Hands are good," Andrew replied, "but the heart matters more." "And the heart too," Mr. Hardy nodded. "You can see how he looks at Mia, like you once looked at your own." Andrew didn't answer. He just smiled. A week before the wedding, Jean arrived. Older now, grayer, but still the same, sharp-tongued, cigarette in hand. She had long since left journalism and started a foundation to help women in difficult situations. That story about Hayter had been the beginning. After it came other stories, other women who needed help. "Do you know how many there are?" she said to Emily, sitting on the veranda. "Hundreds, thousands, women who were used and discarded, who had nowhere to go. And you help them." "I try." Jean took a drag. "You can't save everyone, but everyone you do save, that's a victory." "You've changed," Emily said. "We all have." Jean looked at her. "You most of all. Remember how you were back then? Scared, lost, and now I'm different. Now you're real." Martha came too, with her husband and 2 children. She worked at the same beauty salon, but no longer as a stylist, as the owner. She'd opened her own business, pulled herself out, found her happiness. "Mia," she said, hugging the bride, "you're so beautiful. Your mom would be proud." Mia flinched. "You knew my mom? My real mom?" "I did." Martha paused. "She was like sunshine. When she walked into a room, it got brighter, and she loved you very much. Very much." "Tell me about her," Mia said softly. "Please." They talked until morning. Martha told them about young Casey, about her laughter, her dreams, how she wanted to become an artist, but never quite made it. About how she fell in love head first, foolishly, the way only the young can. And about how she fought to the very end, for herself, for her child, for the right to live. "She didn't give up," Martha said. "She was just exhausted, and she made the wrong decision. But that doesn't mean she was weak. It means she was broken." "I don't blame her," Mia said. "I never did. I just wanted to understand." "And now you do?" "Yes. Now I do." In the morning, Mia went out into the garden. Andrew was already there, sitting on a bench under the old apple tree, the same one his grandmother had planted long ago. "Can't sleep?" she asked, sitting beside him. "Age," he smiled. "I wake up early and fall asleep late." "Dad." Mia paused. "Can I call you Dad? Officially, in front of everyone. At the wedding." Andrew looked at her. In the morning light, she looked so much like Casey, the same eyes, the same posture. But her smile was Emily's. You've always called me that. Yes, but… Mia hesitated. I thought maybe it was awkward for you. You know, I am your father, Andrew said. From the day I picked you up on that bridge. From the day I chose not to walk past. Blood is chemistry. Family is a choice. Mia leaned into him, the way she had as a child. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. The wedding was a success. The weather was clear and warm, with a light breeze that stirred the white ribbons on the tent. Guests came from everywhere, Mia and Dave's city friends, village neighbors, colleagues from the hospital. A strange mix, but somehow perfectly harmonious. Bill Hader came too, old, stooped, but with clear eyes. He stayed to the side, didn't impose, just watched Mia with a quiet smile. Thank you for inviting me, he said to Andrew. I didn't deserve it. You helped when it mattered. Without you, none of this would have happened. I just wanted to see her, at least once. She's my niece, after all. She is beautiful and happy. That's what matters. The ceremony was held outdoors, in the very garden where Andrew had once found the old cradle. The local priest, Father Matthew, who came to the village once a month, read the prayers. Mia and Dave stood hand in hand, and in their eyes was something that couldn't be faked, real love. Do you remember? Emily whispered, leaning into Andrew. What? Our wedding. Also here. Also in summer. I remember. He squeezed her hand. Every day. The celebration lasted into the night. There were toasts, long, short, funny, touching. There was music, from folk songs with a guitar to modern hits from a speaker. There was dancing, laughter, tears of joy. And then there was the moment when Mia came up to her parents and took their hands. I want to say something, she said loudly so everyone could hear. These people are my mom and dad, not by blood, but by love. They saved my life, literally, not metaphorically. Everything I have, my family, my happiness, my future, is because of them. The guests fell silent. 25 years ago, Mia continued, my dad was standing on a bridge. He could have walked past. He could have not noticed. He could have decided it wasn't his problem. But he ran forward, held out his arms, and caught me. He caught my life. Her voice trembled. And my mom. She lost her sister. Lost everything she knew. And instead of breaking, she stood firm. She raised me, loved my dad, built a home, not out of bricks, out of love. Emily cried openly. I don't know why fate arranged things this way, Mia said. Why my biological mother couldn't hold on. Why I ended up on that bridge at that exact moment. But I know one thing. I was loved. From the very first second, when Dad's arms closed around me, I was loved. And I will love back. Always. She hugged them both, tight, desperate, as if afraid to let go. Thank you, she whispered, for being mine. Andrew looked over her head at the star-filled sky, the dark outline of the forest, at the world that had once seemed so hostile. And he felt something inside, something that had pressed on his chest for 5 long years, ever since prison, finally let go. He had chosen right. A year later, Mia gave birth to a son. They named him Casey, in honor of the grandmother he would never meet. Casey, Emily murmured, rocking her grandson. Casey, my dear. Andrew looked at her, graying with fine lines around her eyes, hands roughened by work, and saw the same woman who had opened the door to him 26 years earlier, scared, tired, but unbroken. You're beautiful, he said. Emily laughed. I'm old, a grandmother already. A beautiful grandmother. Flatterer. Just telling the truth. She handed him the baby, a small, warm bundle, so much like the one he had once pressed to his chest on the bridge. Here, your turn. Andrew took the child carefully, gently. Casey opened his eyes, looked at him with a hazy infant gaze, and suddenly smiled. that same meaningless smile that makes adults' hearts ache. "Hello," Andrew said. "I'm your grandpa. Let's get acquainted." The years flowed by like the river beneath that same bridge. Seasons changed, people changed, the world around them changed. The village sometimes emptied, sometimes came back to life. Young families arrived, tired of the city, searching for space and quiet. Andrew's house became something like a center. People came to him for advice, medical and life advice alike. Emily taught young mothers how to care for their babies. Together, they raised a generation, not only their Mia, but also the neighbors' children who gathered around, soaking up warmth and wisdom. Jean passed away 8 years after Mia's wedding. Cancer, fast and merciless. Dozens of women came to the funeral, the ones she had helped, the ones she had pulled out of despair. They stood by the coffin, cried, spoke words of gratitude. "She lived a good life," Emily said after the funeral. "A real one." "Like we did," Andrew replied. "Like we do." Martha outlived Jean by 3 years. Her foundation, the one they had founded together after the Hayter case, continued its work. Mia joined the board, carrying on what had been started so many years earlier. Bill Hayter passed away quietly in his sleep, in his small house near Lancaster. In his will, he left everything he had, little but honestly earned, to Jean's foundation. "Redemption," Mia said when she found out. "He searched for it his whole life." "And found it," Emily added. "In his own way." They almost never spoke of Seth. He existed somewhere on the edges, a shadow of the past with no power over the present. People said he had gone abroad, lived alone, was ill. Said he tried to rebuild his business but failed. A reputation, once destroyed, doesn't mend. People said he wrote letters to Mia. She never read them, threw them away unopened. "He has no place in my life," she said once, when Emily asked carefully. "He's biology. You are family. Those are different things." Casey grew up lively and curious, with his grandfather's hands and his grandmother's eyes. He loved tinkering in the workshop with Andrew, loved listening to Emily's stories, loved running through the garden with the neighbors' dogs. When he turned 7, Mia brought him to that very bridge. "Here," she said, "Grandpa saved me." A long time ago, when I was very little. Casey looked at the tracks, the river below, the gray October sky. "How did he save you?" "He caught me, when I was falling." "Why were you falling?" Mia paused. "How do you explain that to a 7-year-old? How do you talk about pain, despair, hopelessness, so he understands but isn't frightened?" "My mom was feeling very bad," she said at last. "So bad that she couldn't cope. She let me go, thinking it would be better that way. But Grandpa was there and didn't let me fall." "Is Grandpa a hero?" "Yes, a real hero." Casey nodded seriously. "When I grow up, I'll be a hero too. I'll catch everyone." "I hope you won't have to," Mia whispered. "I hope your life will be good." She hugged her son, feeling his warmth, his life under her hands. And in her thoughts, she thanked the sky, fate, chance, for the fact that back then, 26 years ago, it was him on that bridge. Andrew, at exactly that moment. Andrew turned 70. They celebrated the birthday in the garden, quietly, with family. Mia and Dave, Casey, his younger sister Erica, neighbors, colleagues from the hospital. Emily baked pies, decorated the house with balloons, which Casey immediately started popping. "Grandpa," he said, handing over a slightly crooked handmade card, "this is for you. I drew it myself." On the card was a bridge, and 2 people, one big, one small, and the sun above them, bright and yellow, with rays going in all directions. "That's you catching me," Casey explained. "Mom told me." Andrew looked at the drawing and couldn't find the words. "Thank you," he said finally. "This is the best gift." "Really?" "Really." Casey beamed and ran off to his sister, to argue about something important and very childlike. Emily came over and sat beside him. He's a good boy. Our boy. Yes. She took his hand. Ours. They sat there, looking at the garden, the children, the life they had grown out of nothing. Out of a chance meeting, someone else's tragedy, a decision not to walk past. Do you regret anything? Emily asked. What? Anything. Prison, that commander, the choice you made. Andrew thought about it. In the past, there had been pain and injustice, years behind bars, loneliness, betrayal, a foggy morning on a bridge and a stranger's baby in his arms, fear, uncertainty, struggle. But there was also something else. There was the morning when Emily first smiled at him, not out of politeness, but for real. There was the night when Mia said her first word, Dad, looking at him with those huge eyes. There was the wedding day when he realized, this is happiness, simple and real. There were long, full, meaningful years. No, he said, I don't regret anything, not even prison, not even that. He turned to her. If there hadn't been prison, there wouldn't have been the bridge. If there hadn't been the bridge, there wouldn't have been you. Everything is connected. Everything led here. Emily nodded. I don't regret anything either. Not a thing. The sun was setting behind the trees, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. Children were laughing in the garden. The air smelled of pies and autumn apples. Life went on, simple, real, theirs. That night, when the guests had left and the children were asleep, Andrew stepped out onto the porch. The sky was clear, the stars bright like in childhood. He remembered that day 26 years ago. A cold October dawn, fog over the river, an empty bridge. A woman with a baby in her arms. A shout, a dash, a fall, and a bundle in his hands, warm, alive. Back then, he hadn't known what to do. Hadn't known where to go, who to trust. Hadn't known that this single minute would change his entire life. Now he knew. Thank you, he thought, not sure to whom. To the sky, to fate, to whatever guides the world. Thank you for everything. The door creaked, and Emily stepped onto the porch. She draped a blanket over his shoulders and sat beside him. Can't sleep? Thinking. About what? About how strangely life works. He looked at her. You know, in prison I thought it was all over. My life, my career, everything that had meaning. I came out empty, without a goal, without hope. Just walked around the city, not knowing what to do with myself. And then I ended up on that bridge. And you ended up on that bridge. He paused. Sometimes I think it wasn't an accident, that someone up there knew where to send me. Maybe they did. Emily leaned against him. Or maybe you're just a good person, and good people end up where they're needed. I wasn't good. I broke a man's jaw. You saved 18 wounded soldiers. She looked into his eyes. You saved my niece. You saved me. You saved yourself. We saved each other. The stars shimmered above them, cold and eternal. Somewhere far away, a train rumbled, the same one that crossed the bridge every day. Do you think, Andrew asked, Casey can see us? I don't know. Emily was quiet for a moment. I hope she's okay there. I hope she knows that Mia is happy, that her girl grew up, that she has her own family, her own children. She would be proud. I think so. Emily smiled. I think she'd say, see, Emily, and you were so scared. You were scared? Every day, every minute. She sighed. When you came with Mia in your arms, I thought it was the end. That Hader would destroy us, that they'd take the baby away, that I'd end up in prison or a psych ward. But then, she took his hand. Then I looked at you, at your hands holding the baby so carefully, at your eyes, tired but calm, and I understood. I could do this with you. With you, it wasn't scary. I was scared too. I don't believe you. It's true. Andrew smiled faintly. I was afraid I wouldn't manage, that I'd let you down, that my past, prison, the army, all of it, had broken me. That I didn't know how to be normal anymore. You're the most normal person I know. That's because you know strange people. She laughed softly, careful not to wake the sleeping house. Maybe. She rested her head on his shoulder. But out of all the strange ones, you're the best. They sat like that until dawn, watching the sky grow pale, the stars fade, the first sunlight touch the treetops, listening as the world woke up, birds, wind, the rustle of leaves. And then Andrew heard footsteps. Light, hurried. The door creaked, and Casey ran onto the porch, messy-haired, in pajamas, sleepy-eyed. Grandpa, Grandma, you're here? Here, Andrew replied. Why aren't you sleeping? I woke up. The boy climbed onto his lap. I dreamed something good. I don't remember what, but it was good. Those are the best dreams, Emily said. The ones you don't remember. Casey nodded, serious, grown up. Grandpa, can we go to the forest today? You promised to show me where the squirrels live. We can, after breakfast. And can I take my backpack? The blue one? You can. And can we take sandwiches? Lots and lots? Andrew laughed. Everything's allowed. Casey beamed. You're the best grandpa in the world. I know, Andrew replied. I'm lucky. He looked at his grandson, at this small miracle that existed only because once, long ago, he hadn't walked past. At his wife sitting beside him, gray-haired and beautiful. At the house that had become their fortress, their refuge, their world. And he understood. Nothing had been in vain. Every step, every decision, every choice had led here. To this morning, this porch, these people he loved more than life. The sun rose over the forest, flooding the world with golden light. A new day was beginning, simple, ordinary, beautiful, and they walked toward it, together. The forest smelled of pine and mushrooms. Casey ran ahead, rustling through the leaves, constantly turning around to make sure Grandpa wasn't falling behind. Here, here, he shouted, pointing at an old pine. Look, a hollow! Andrew came closer and looked up. High up, about the height of a third floor, a dark hole showed in the trunk. Does a squirrel live there? Maybe a squirrel, or maybe an owl, or a woodpecker. How do we know? We wait. We watch. The forest doesn't like rushing. Casey frowned, thinking it over. What if I climb up and look? Then you'll scare whoever lives there, and they'll leave. Andrew squatted beside his grandson. Do you know what's most important in the forest? What? Patience. The forest opens itself to those who know how to wait. They sat on a fallen log and took out the sandwiches. Casey chewed, swinging his legs, glancing at the hollow. Grandpa, were you always patient? No, Andrew smiled. I was hot-headed. I did stupid things. What kind of stupid things? Different ones. He paused, choosing his words. Once I hit a man. Hard, because I was angry. A bad man? A man who wanted to hurt others. I stopped him, but... Andrew sighed. But I chose the wrong way, and I paid for it. How did you pay? I lived for 5 years in a place I didn't want to be. Far away from everyone I loved. Casey thought about it. Is that like when I get put in the corner? Something like that. Only the corner was big, and I had to stand there a long time. Were you sad? Very. Casey scooted closer and leaned against his grandpa. But now you're with us, and you're not going anywhere anymore. Nowhere, Andrew confirmed. I promise. They stayed in the forest until noon. They saw a squirrel, red, quick, flashing through the branches. They saw a woodpecker, a red-headed one, busily tapping at the bark. They found a mushroom, a huge orange-cap boletus, which Casey carried home like a trophy, proud and careful. Grandma, look! He shouted from the doorstep. We found it, all by ourselves. Emily came out onto the porch, wiping her hands on her apron. What a beauty. Perfect for soup. For soup? Casey was disappointed. I wanted to show it to Erica. You will. And then, soup. That's the fate of all mushrooms. The boy sighed, accepting the harsh truth of life. That evening, when Casey and Erica had fallen asleep, Mia came out to her parents on the veranda. She sat beside them, tucking her legs under herself, like she had as a child. Mom, Dad, she paused. Dave got an offer, a job in Germany, a good one, in his field. Emily and Andrew exchanged a look. For long? Emily asked. A 3-year contract, but it might be extended. And you? Mia swallowed. I want to go with him. We're a family. But the kids… She looked at her parents. I don't want to take them away from you. They love you. They're happy here. Mia… Andrew took her hand. Children should be with their parents. That's what matters most. But you… We'll visit. And you'll visit us. Germany isn't the end of the world. 3 hours by plane, Emily added. I checked. Mia laughed through tears. You already checked? Dave told me. A month ago he asked for advice, whether to go or not. And what did you tell him? I said go. It's your chance. And you don't leave your family behind. You take them with you. Mia hugged her mother, tight, desperate. I was afraid to tell you. I thought you'd be upset. We will be, Emily said honestly. We'll miss you every day, but our happiness for you is stronger. You deserve happiness, Mia, all the happiness in the world. I'm already happy, because of you. They sat there, the three of them, hugging and looking at the stars. Somewhere in the distance, a train rumbled, the same eternal one, crossing the bridge over the river. Mia and her family left in December. The farewell was loud, tearful, chaotic, just the way farewells are. Casey sobbed, clinging to his grandpa. Erica, still too young to understand, stared with wide eyes. We'll come back, Mia promised. For Christmas, for Easter, for the summer. Every time we can. I know, Andrew said. Go, don't look back. The car disappeared around the bend. Emily stood by the gate, watching after it, for a long time, until the last dot was gone. Let's go inside, Andrew said. It's cold. In a moment. She wiped her tears. Give me a minute. He waited, stood beside her in silence while she pulled herself together. That's it, she said at last. We raised them and let them go. That's how it should be. I know. She turned to him. But it still hurts. It does, he agreed. But it's the right kind of pain. The pain of growth, not of loss. The winter was snowy. The house was buried in drifts, the road covered every night. Andrew cleared paths, chopped wood, kept the stove going. Emily knitted endless scarves, mittens, socks, sent packages to Germany, received photos and video calls. Grandpa, Casey shouted from the screen. We have no snow here, none at all, just rain. That's okay, Andrew replied. You'll come in summer, swim in the river. And will we go fishing? Of course. I'll make you a new rod. In the evenings, he and Emily sat by the stove, read, talked. Sometimes they were silent, that cozy silence only possible between people who've lived together for decades. It's strange, Emily said once. The house feels full even when it's empty. That's because we filled it. Andrew tossed a log into the fire. With memories, love, life, that doesn't go away. My philosopher. I'm getting old. Philosophy comes with age. In spring, a district commission came by. They inspected houses, looked for violations, ordinary bureaucracy. A young official walked around the property, tapping notes into a tablet. Are you Andrew Carson? He asked, checking documents. I am. It says here, he hesitated, a criminal record, grievous bodily harm. There was one. A long time ago. And you live here? In the village? 30 years now. The official looked around. The solid, well-kept house, carved window frames, neat garden. Looked at Emily, who came out with a tray, tea and cookies. "Help yourself," she said. "You must be hungry from the road." The official grew embarrassed. "We're on duty." "Duty is duty, but people need to eat." She set the tray on the table in the yard. "Sit down, don't be shy." He stayed for an hour, drank tea, ate cookies, listened to stories about the village. As he left, he shook Andrew's hand. "You've got a good place here, a real one." "We try." "And you?" He hesitated. "If you need anything, call the administration. We'll help if we can." After he left, Emily laughed. "Well, there you go. Came to inspect, left in love. That's you, you're baking. No one can resist it." Flatterer. That summer, Casey and Erica spent in the village. Mia brought them in June, left a week later. Work, responsibilities, adult life. The kids stayed with Grandpa and Grandma, and the house filled again with shouting, laughter, running feet. "Grandpa, let's go to the river." "Grandma, I'm hungry." "Grandpa, when are we going fishing?" "Grandma, Erica broke my toy." Andrew got up at dawn, gathered gear, dug worms, prepared the boat. Casey followed him everywhere, soaking in every word, every movement. "Why do you hold the line like that?" "So the fish won't feel it." "How does it feel?" "It doesn't have hands." "It has instincts, like you, when you know Mom is nearby even if you can't see her." Casey thought about it. "I miss Mom." "I know. That's normal." "Do you miss anyone?" Andrew paused. The float trembled, went still. "My parents, my grandmother, she lived in this house, friends I lost." "Are they in the sky?" "Probably. Somewhere good. And my other grandma is there too. The one who—" Casey hesitated. "Who gave birth to my mom." Andrew looked at his grandson. 8 years old, not a baby anymore, but still a child. Already asking questions with no simple answers. "Yes," he said. "Casey is there, and I think she's watching over you." "Really?" "Really." The float jerked and went under. Casey jumped up, grabbed the rod. "Pull," Andrew ordered. "Slowly, don't jerk." The boy pulled out a fish, a small crucian carp, silver and wriggling. His eyes shone. "I caught it, by myself, for the first time." "Well done." Andrew helped take the fish off the hook. "Now the choice, let it go or have it for dinner." Casey looked at the fish, at his grandpa, then back at the fish. "Let it go," he decided. "Let it live." The fish splashed back into the water, flashed silver, and disappeared. "Why did you let it go?" Andrew asked. "I don't know." The boy shrugged. "I just felt like it. It's small. Let it grow." Andrew put a hand on his shoulder. "Good choice." That evening, when the kids were asleep, Emily came out onto the veranda with 2 cups of tea. "Did you tell him about Casey?" He asked. "And what did you say?" "The truth. That she's in the sky. That she's watching over him." Emily nodded. "Mia wants them to know. No secrets." "That's right. But not all at once. They're still little. They'll understand when the time comes." Andrew took a sip of tea. "For now, let it just be the sky and a kind grandmother watching over them." Emily smiled. "You know, sometimes I feel like she really is watching. Casey, especially when Mia laughs. She has the same laugh. Maybe she is. Who knows? Do you believe in it? In heaven? In life after?" Andrew thought for a moment. "I don't know what's there. No one knows. But I do believe that love doesn't disappear. That it stays, in the people we raise, in the things we do, in the home we build. That's beautiful. That's the truth." He looked at her. "You are my truth. Mia, the kids, all of this, it's real. And as long as we're alive, those we remember are alive too. Emily leaned into him. I love you. I love you too. The stars shimmered above them, the same stars that had shone 30 years earlier when it all had just begun. The world changed, people came and went, but the sky remained the same, eternal. In the fall, Andrew got sick. At first it was just a cough, then weakness, fever. The local doctor, a young one, knew, shook his head and prescribed medicine. You should go to the city, he said. Get tests done. I don't like cities. Andrew, this is serious. I know. Andrew smiled faintly. I'm a doctor myself, remember? Emily insisted. They went to the regional hospital, the very one where they had once worked together. The corridors had changed, the faces were unfamiliar, but the smell was the same. Medicine, disinfectant, hope, and fear. The diagnosis came quickly. Pneumonia, complicated by age and old injuries. Not fatal, but serious. Treatment will take at least a month, the doctor said. Antibiotics, therapy, rest. Can I go home? Yes, but on one condition, bed rest, no strain. Andrew lay at home, hating his own weakness. Emily cared for him, patiently, gently, like for a child. Take your medicine. It's bitter, but it helps. Drink. Mia flew in a week later, dropped everything and rushed over. Dad, how are you? Alive. He tried to smile. Don't look like that. I'm not dying. I know. It's just... She sat beside him and took his hand. I got scared. Don't be. I'll live a while longer. Still need to see my grandkids get married. She laughed through tears. Casey is only 8. It's too early. Time flies. You blink, and it's gone. Mia stayed with them for 2 weeks, helped around the house, cooked, sat with her father. They talked about life, about the kids, about the future. Dad, I wanted to ask. She hesitated. Back then, on the bridge, were you thinking about anything? In that moment? Andrew closed his eyes, remembering. No, there was no time to think. My body just moved. I saw it, ran, grabbed you. Like in the war. And after? When you were holding me? After. He paused. After I understood that everything had changed, that I wasn't alone anymore, that there was someone who depended on me. And it was strange. For 5 years I lived just to survive. And suddenly, a baby. Someone else's. A stranger's. And for some reason I knew I couldn't leave her. Why? I don't know. He opened his eyes and looked at her. Maybe because I had once been abandoned myself. In prison, when my wife left. I knew what it felt like to be unwanted, and I didn't want anyone else to feel that. You're a good person, Dad. Just ordinary. I was just lucky to be in the right place. No. Mia shook her head. Not just lucky. You chose. Every day, every minute you chose to be there. That's not luck. That's love. By winter, Andrew recovered. Weaker, thinner, but back on his feet. The doctor allowed light activity, walks, work around the house. Life returned to its usual rhythm. At Christmas, the whole family came. The house was bursting. Mia and Dave, Casey and Erica, even the neighbors stopped by. They decorated the tree in the yard, huge, real, sparkling with lights. Grandpa, make a wish, Casey shouted, bouncing with excitement. I already did. What is it? A secret. Otherwise it won't come true. Casey pouted, but not for long. Erica pulled him to build a snowman, and he ran off. Emily came up and stood beside Andrew. What did you wish for? For everything to stay like this. For all of you to be close, healthy, happy. That's a good wish. The only one that matters. At dinner, glasses clinked, crackers popped. Casey squealed with delight. Erica clapped her hands. Merry Christmas, everyone shouted together. To new happiness. Andrew hugged Emily and kissed the top of her head. To new happiness, he whispered, though the old one is more than enough for me. The years continued to flow slowly, like the river beyond the village. Casey grew up and entered university, medical school, like his grandpa and mom. Erica fell in love with music, played the violin, dreamed of the conservatory. Andrew turned 75. He asked for a modest celebration. Only the closest came. They sat around the table, reminisced. "Grandpa," said Casey, now 16, almost grown, "I want to write about you, for a school project. The hero of my family." "I'm not a hero. To me, you are." Casey took out a notebook. "Tell me everything, from the very beginning." And Andrew told him everything, from his first day at war to his last morning in the village, about blood and fear, about choices and losses, about the bridge and the note, about love and hope. He spoke for a long time, until his voice grew hoarse, until the words ran out. "There," he said at last. "That's my life. Ordinary, really." "Not ordinary," Casey said quietly. "Real." That winter was mild, almost without snow. Every morning Andrew went out onto the veranda, looked at the garden, the forest, the sky. He felt his body growing weaker, but his soul stayed the same, alive, curious, open. "What are you thinking about?" Emily asked once, sitting beside him. "That I've lived a good life." "That sounds like a farewell." "No." He took her hand. "Just gratitude. For every day, every minute. For you." "Stop it. We still have time." "Of course we do. But that doesn't stop me from being grateful." She leaned against him, just like 30 years ago, like yesterday, like always. "I'm grateful too. For you. For everything." They sat like that, watching the sunrise. The sky turned pink and gold. Birds began their morning calls. The world was waking up, the same world that had been here before them and would remain after. "You know," Andrew said, "if someone had told me back then, on the bridge, that all of this would happen, I wouldn't have believed it. And now? Now I do, because it's true, the truest truth I have." Emily smiled. "You're still strange. And you're still beautiful. Flatterer. Truth-teller." Somewhere in the distance, a train rumbled, the same one that crossed the bridge every day, the same bridge where their story began. Andrew listened to the sound, familiar, close, and he understood. The circle had closed. Everything that needed to happen had happened. Everything that needed to be done was done. He had chosen right, and life, this strange, unpredictable, beautiful life, had answered him in kind. Right. The next spring, Andrew planted an apple tree, a small sapling bought at the market, chosen carefully. He checked the roots, examined the buds. "Why do you need it?" Emily asked. "The garden is already full." "This one is for the great-grandchildren." He stuck the shovel into the ground. "When they grow up, they'll eat the apples and remember." Remember what? That their great-grandfather once decided not to walk past. Emily watched him work, still strong despite the years. Hands that had once held a scalpel now held a shovel. Hands that had caught her niece on the bridge. Hands that had held her every night for 30 years. "I love you," she said. He looked up and smiled. "I know." "No, really. I love you so much it sometimes scares me." "Why does it scare you?" "Because I'm afraid of losing you." Andrew planted the shovel in the ground and came over to her, took her hands, looked into her eyes. "You won't lose me. Even when I'm gone, I'll still be here. In this house, in this garden, in our children and grandchildren. In the apple tree I'm planting now. In you. That's beautiful. That's the truth." He stroked her cheek. "Love doesn't die. It just changes form. It becomes memories, traditions, stories told by the fireplace. We'll go, but what we built will stay." Emily leaned into him. Promise it won't be soon. I promise. He kissed her forehead. I still have a lot to do. By evening, he finished planting the apple tree. He watered it, packed the soil, tied it to a stake. The little tree swayed in the wind, still fragile, still vulnerable. Grow, Andrew said. Grow big and strong. That summer, everyone came. Mia and Dave, Casey, already a medical student, Erica, already a performing violinist. The house filled again with voices, laughter, life. Casey brought the project he had written about his grandfather, a thick folder, dozens of pages. They showed it at a conference, he said proudly. The professors cried. Exaggerating? No, really. One professor came up afterward and said it should be published, a story people need to know. And what did you say? That I'd ask you. Andrew took the folder and flipped through it. Everything was there, his words written in neat handwriting, photos, old black and white ones and new color ones, documents, his military ID, release papers, marriage certificate. You did a good job. You lived well. Casey sat beside him. I'm proud of you, Grandpa. And I'm proud of you. So, can we publish it? Andrew thought for a moment. His story, personal, intimate, pain and joy, fear and hope, everything he had lived through, everything he had become. Yes, he said at last. Let them know. Maybe it'll help someone. Help with what? Not walking past, when the time comes. In August, they marked 30 years since the day they met. Not the wedding, the meeting. The day Andrew knocked on the door with a baby in his arms. 30 years, Emily said. A whole life. The best life. They sat on the veranda like they had 1,000 times before, drinking tea, watching the sunset. The house breathed around them. Floorboards creaked, walls softly cracked. A living house, filled with memory. Do you remember how I opened the door? Emily asked. You were standing there with Mia, so lost. Lost isn't even the word. I had no idea what to do, where to go. I just followed the address from the note. And you found it. I did. He took her hand. I found you. It was scary. The first days, the first week. I didn't know who you were, whether I could trust you. And then? Then I saw how you were with her, with Mia, how you held her, rocked her, careful, gentle. And I understood. I could trust you. I was afraid of dropping her, Andrew smiled. So small, so fragile, and me with these big hands. You were gentler than any mother. I noticed that right away. I learned, in the hospital. There were many children there, wounded, lost. Someone had to hold them while they were treated. You never told me that. It's hard. He paused. Not all of them survived. Some I still remember. Faces, names. That's part of you. Yes, like you, like Mia, like all of this. He gestured to the yard, the garden, the house. Everything is part of me, and I'm part of it all. That night, after Emily fell asleep, Andrew went out into the yard. The sky was clear and star-filled, just like it had been many years ago. He went over to the apple tree he had planted in spring. The little tree had grown stronger, put out new branches. It wasn't bearing fruit yet, but soon it would. Grow, he whispered. Grow and remember. The wind rustled the leaves. A night bird sang somewhere. The world was quiet, calm, right. Andrew went back inside and lay down beside his wife. She stirred in her sleep and leaned into him. Everything okay? She murmured. Everything's okay. He closed his eyes, and the last thing he saw before sleep was that same bridge. Fog over the river, empty tracks, a woman with a baby in her arms. And himself, running, reaching out, catching life, his life. Morning began as usual, with the smell of coffee and Emily's voice from the kitchen. Andrew came downstairs and sat at the table, Geraniums bloomed on the windowsill. Sunlight filled the room with warmth. "The bread is fresh," Emily said, placing a plate in front of him. "I baked it myself." "I know." The smell woke me up. She sat across from him, just as she had every morning for 30 years. "What shall we do today?" "Live," Andrew said. "Just live." And they did.